We got PPE. What's that acronym? What does that acronym even mean?
Um, Wait, so isn't it personal paycheck something?
So the PPE. So I feel like it's always getting wrapped up under like the same thing. Like, is it obviously we're
Well,
supposed to?
is it? I think it's PPP, right?
Oh, is it PPP?
I think so. It's like personal paycheck program.
Oh, okay. See, now we're gonna know. So that's why
Yeah.
I'll cross off that PPE that I have right there. Sitting.
I mean, they should call it PPE because personal paycheck. Um, it's just exit. I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm gonna call it a disaster. It's actually been a disaster in many different ways, and I think both you know, Republicans and Democrats, or at least conservatives and liberals, would call it a disaster when Harvard, and I'm going to call it Harvard just so that um, it's a liberal school, I guess you could say liberal leaning.
Right.
It has $40 billion in endowment, and for it to even apply, I don't care if it's accidentally to apply for programs that should be going to small businesses. And I'm talking about small businesses where people have like 20 employees, 25, 100, 200. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm thinking about. The guy who owns a garage with like 4 or 5 employees and fixes cars. Like, and then those 4 or 5 employees have two kids in a house. Like that's that's the kind of stuff that it should have been going to, but it wasn't. It was going to Harvard, Ruth's Chris, and some.
Well, Ruth Chris, they actually got away with. They got it twice. So they filed under two different subsidiaries, who
Oh,
both ended up getting it. So I think the max you could get was like 10 million bucks, right, or
yeah.
something like that. So they
So,
got like 20, and then the
yeah.
Lakers ended up getting 4.4.
Like, why?
How is this even possible?
Yeah. And
And then we
it's
have a
so
new one,
sad.
the second wave. It's already like 50% complete. And what we've been seeing in Minneapolis is the best restaurants in town are having to close their doors. And
Mhm.
seemingly, it sounds as though like they're closing their doors forever.
No, yeah, they are. And they've stated that. And these are the places that have, as I mentioned, the 50 to 200 employees. And it is sad to see them go. And it's why I'm calling this situation a disaster. I mean, this is it's not only you know uh, the Lakers. It's an LA company. The Harvard is a Boston company. And I'm calling these out so it doesn't make it seem like obviously not just the New Roots Chris or calling out a government that's run by conservatives, but this is 2008 all over again on steroids, and this time it's almost like a spit in the face, um, and it's just sad,
Well, and
So
it is one of those things where, one, I think that Donald Trump is the CEO of this whole thing, right? So he was
mhm,
elected as a lot of conservatives would say, like, we're electing a CEO. That's the most important part of why we're electing Donald Trump, right? We want him to run
right,
our business, which is called America. And
right,
so, absolutely, he's the person that like is who you point to and go, how the heck did this fail the way that it failed? And then I don't even think we know enough about the whole organization of who else to even point a finger to. That's what's kind of
right.
goofy with this situation. Like, I wish that I could point my finger towards anybody else, but there is nobody else to really point to. It's like people are getting fired left and right who are supposed to oversee this type of stuff, and now it just doesn't even seem like there's any level of organization around it. And
Yeah, I mean, if it went successful, and meaning that the small businesses would have survived this, they would have got the funds. Like these big businesses that don't need this money are eating up all the cash that actually would have made this coronavirus situation bearable. Because the funds are not getting to who they're supposed to get to, there is anxiety um, for small business owners to now say, look, this economic death could be the death of me in many ways. This is my whole life savings. I don't need nothing else. And so it was mismanaged. If Trump wants to sign the checks that go out, then if it was successful, he would have gotten the credit, and damn well, he would have made sure that you would have gave him the credit.
Yeah.
And so now, he gets the blame because he put those people in position to send the stuff out. So,
And I don't really see him speaking much on it. Like
yeah,
he gets hammered by the press a little bit, but I feel like the press is even hammering more on like how he's misspeaking about different drugs that are out there, or how he's mismanaging the numbers and mismanaging telling governors of like what to do. But with this situation, I don't even really have a good talking point on Trump like addressing it that well, or him
I
getting
think
hammered on it.
this is the type of situation kind of reminds me a little bit of when you watch the Apple story of how Steve Jobs asked at that point the CEO of PepsiCo to come in and run Apple, and at some point obviously he regretted it because Steve Jobs got fired, but I think his is like Scully or something.
Yeah, Scully. Yeah.
Ran the skills didn't translate over, and so while Trump, whatever, let's say if you want to say that he was a great businessman and he's built big names and whatnot, like that marketing, what I'm seeing is like doesn't always translate over because government is such a different beast. And you don't get to run it like a CEO because our Constitution actually designed it so it runs more as a checks and balance. As a CEO, a true CEO can tell the COO or the CFO to, veto things and change things around. Whereas in the President of the United States can't really run things like a CEO, and I'm pretty sure that would be frustrating.
Yeah, but you should, like, with Trump's history of being a real estate guy, you would expect him to be able to navigate these different like local politics better, because not only was he like the CEO and founder of a company, which is like, okay, you're like, you kind of understand the politics of what it takes to run a company, you understand how finances are really important, and hopefully you know how to kind of run slim, but you would think a real estate guy would understand the mechanics of local government a little bit better than this, because that's, they're always getting approved for permits, having to get through the red tape to be able to build a skyscraper. I'm sure it's a ridiculous amount of procedure that it takes to get there. But this is a clear fumble on the highest level.
Yeah, and this is a major shakeup for the entire industry, and the anxiety that Americans are feeling is that we're stuck between a rock and hard place. I can even see it with my family too, because my dad and my brother were saying that, for example, May Day is a big event for the food trucks out here, but we didn't have May Day this year because you can't do big events, and so people are stuck between their business and wanting to do the right thing. And the goal, or at least what the government should have done, is figured out a way where it's like they couldn't take away the entire blow. That's just not possible. But you could have really eased the blow by just making sure the money ended up not with Harvard, that has $40 billion, not with Ruth's Chris, not with Shake Shack. Like, you know what I mean? And like, these are the type of companies that are big enough that should have enough for a rainy day fund. Maybe give them, whatever, maybe 2 million, 3 million, but 10 million twice over. Well, and then it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, like George Bush just came out with like his like kind of video about just feeling empathetic towards what's going on with these times, saying like we got to be nonpartisan, and also giving himself like a little love in the sense that like why don't we reunite or unite the same way that we did around like 9/11, right? And although I think it's really difficult to be president in these types of times, I think these types of times should be the easiest time to unite the country. If any time you're going to unite the country, it's during great disaster. And
Right.
this is those moments that like George Bush, whether you liked him or not, you go, well, during that one moment, he felt like he had it under control. The country came together, and whether or not that's like was his doing or not, he's still gonna get like some of the reward of that, right? Because we
Right.
all, did our American thing and said like together we are united and we're making it happen. I feel like it's kind of easy to unite countries during these really dark moments, and Trump's been a continual fail with that. I haven't felt more divided than we currently are. Still,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like these opportunities come by in sections or boats in order to do something, and it doesn't work. And it, what I see is there's a lot of terminologies being used as if like we're at war. A lot of war times language is used in the media by government members right now, and I wonder if they're doing that because it helps unite people, or they assume or think it will unite people because during war times, when you use war rhetoric, it's one way of saying we're all in this together versus, at this point, a virus we can't see.
well, if we're at war, I actually think we should like act like we're at war too. I think one of the best ways that we could unite this country is allow people to enlist in like kind of like a National Guard type format where one, you enlist, you're getting free education, you're gonna come out as a veteran, and you are gonna be put in positions to like maybe like the meat packing facilities that they were talking about that they potentially needed to shut down. They putting
Yeah.
people in those types of positions. They're putting people in like supportive roles in hospitals. They're doing things that you would expect like kind of like the FEMA or National Guard to do. And I actually think we would alleviate a lot of these protesters that you see in like Michigan or like Florida or even in Huntington Beach around here, because there's like this pent up energy I think from the right, but those people are actually really good at wanting to put themselves in the front line, and that would be a great way to relieve some of that energy and actually like reroute it towards positivity, where it's like sign your son up to enlist, like put him on the front line, and it's not like you're actually getting hit by bullets, so it's not as ridiculous as the enlisting that had to happen during World War II, but you would still be able to be super proud. You'd say like, I enlisted for America during the coronavirus time, and we give them the same amount of benefit that they would if they went to Vietnam or any other war that has existed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the caveat though is when you're at war, there's no okay. Like I think for most people, there was no question that September 11 we were attacked. Like,
Sure.
there's nobody that's saying that the Twin Towers didn't go down. Like some people might say, okay, some of it were bombed, but for a second, I think that everybody, regardless on which side you're on, like I think everyone's like, well, did September 11 happen? It's like, well, yes, it happened. Like it's the fact that we can all agree something happened, and they went down. The tough part about this is that there are some people who think, who believe that this is overblown, and there's some people who believe we're not taking this seriously enough at all. And like I think about this, like if you were an alien who wanted to attack humans, like I don't think you would have much. Like coronavirus is like one of those weapons that's crazy because it could be so stealthy. It could be like, I don't see it, I don't feel it. Because with the flu, you get sick, you're down for 2 weeks, you feel better, then you self quarantine yourself when you're
You can't
sick
get
all over.
outside. You're crawling around your bathroom floor. You can't do it.
Yeah, you can be. Yeah, so you self quarantine, you get better, then you go out. With this one, you could be like, I don't know if I have it. I don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. You're out there, and maybe you got 6 people sick. That's the crazy part, right? It's like it's one of those weapons that it just creates tribal warfare because somebody's like, "Who's punching you? I didn't punch you. I didn't even swing." And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
so
"Bro,
phantom.
you swung. You hit me." You know what I mean? And so it we were already divided as a country as it is, and I one of the reasons why I think Bush was able to unite people was that the enemy or the perceived enemy was very clear. The attack was very clear. And for there's to be honest, is for a lot of Americans, this attack doesn't feel very clear. They don't see people. They don't see bodies on streets. They don't see
Yeah,
planes flying a you know into a building. And so all they see is that they're not getting money. Their mortgages are going up, and the government is, they're already like very skeptical of the government, and now they just feel like they're on lockdown.
right.
And so it doesn't help that they didn't get the stimulus that they needed on top of that. It's been a waterfall of getting shitted on.
Right. Well, then, and like, and the difference, and so kind of going off of that wartime thing, what happens usually in war times is obviously our economy gets beat to shit,
Right.
but a lot of the people that would be struggling the most in that economy generally are like they're at war. They're actually the individuals that are fighting for us in those
Right.
situations. Now we're all just kind of sitting at home. We don't even know what to fight. Like we don't even know how to do our part.
Right.
And that's where it almost makes it more difficult. Like the best thing that you can do is sit around and like
Right.
just chill and like wait it out. And
Yeah.
and that's it's seemingly like that should be the easiest thing ever.
Yeah.
But as a whole society, it's definitely like a real big trial.
It's so uh, the more that I'm going through this, like I empathize with the right, or I empathize with people. It's not just the right. There's people in the middle and there's people on the left that want the economy to open back up again. So I empathize because you know it's not that people that want to open up businesses like are don't care. They do care, right? It's not that they don't want. No one wants somebody to die in their establishment. No one wants somebody to get sick in their establishment. Like that's not good for business. No legitimate business owner with common sense would want that. Um, However, I think that we also need to stop undermining the people that are asking the country to open up again because we have to understand where they're coming from. The person who gets as the poster child from a media perspective, and I'm saying this as somebody who's a liberal, the media uses the girl who says, I want to get my hair cut as the poster child. But, and we take the person that's fun like to make fun of. And I am going to make fun of her because that's an idiotic
And
reason.
the people who you want to get that soundbite from, they're out there.
Right.
I mean, they're at those steps. It's very easy for these reporters to find like that person that will just spark rage because they're
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, but we have to acknowledge like there is real PTSD and there's real fear by people who have lost their jobs. We have 30 million people that are currently unemployed. I mean that's more than the Great Depression. We have people that are worried about how they're going to make ends meet. We have food lines that are like miles long in some areas. So the PTSD caused by the economic shutdown is as big and as dangerous for people's lives, not just for. So it doesn't have to be a discount, which one or the other. It is completely tragic that a lot of people have died, and way more people will die. And I think the second wave, if history is correct, is going to be triple what we have right now.
Right. Because they and we won't even be able to lock everyone down. A
Yeah,
lot of people will not go back in.
yeah. And then, but the other part is that like everyone's like, well, just stay home. It's like when people who are just saying just stay at home, I'm like, you must have a 40-hour job where you can work from home, so you have the privilege of saying just stay home. Not everybody has that privilege. And so we need to
Right.
understand that, empathize with that, and actually have an effective government that can allow people to have the peace of mind to stay home. People are not on the streets because they all just want to get a haircut. There's a lot of people that are just like, guys, I don't know how I'm going to buy food next week. I can't call anybody in the government because they're not picking up their calls.
I saw some crazy statistic that said like 25% of people are like concerned they won't have any money by the end of May.
Yeah,
Like, and
which is
it's
like
like, but that's normal because like most people, and I believe it's probably even more than that because a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. We've already known that. Like,
yeah,
that's one of the
it's
biggest
crazy.
things that we're fighting in all of politics, right? We're all
Right.
everyone's actually trying to fight the same point, which is like, how do we stop living paycheck to paycheck? And some
Right.
people are like, well, you let people freely build businesses and they will free themselves. And some people are saying that's actually impossible during this current economic state. And we need to create a situation that that's alleviated without it doesn't matter if you have a job or not, like it's just we're already at an impossible place that you can't free yourself, right?
Yeah.
And now
I
this
mean,
comes on and it's like we're not only paycheck, we've missed many paychecks by now.
yeah.
And the government,
Yeah.
like they should have already sent out 2 or 3 of these stimulus things, and I know
Right.
people still haven't got them. I know a lot of
Right.
people actually have, but many people
Yeah.
still haven't.
Oh yeah. I think what I said is like 1/3 of people got them that are supposed to get them, and maybe that number is different. It'll update as we get into May, but we do. I mean, we've used this word a lot, unprecedented time, but I think even more than just getting paychecks to people, if there was a way to freeze mortgages and rent, literally for everybody, like as a national order, and then the government will be like, look, we will cover the checks for those, and then all grocery stores, all items are free, like that you want to eat, or like you'll get like, hey, you can get up to $100 worth of groceries per person per week. Let's just say, just giving out an
Yeah,
example, if people knew that they could put food in their family's mouths, and then they knew that like they wouldn't get kicked out of their home, that is one way where you don't even have to give money to Roots Chris or anybody else, and everyone can be taken care of, at least from like a, I can stay at home, I know I'll have food, I know my
right.
lights won't get turned off, and I can stay at home.
And
And
you
then
don't feel like your rights are getting impeded on as much with that situation, right? You're just like, oh, the government's just supporting these particular industries. And that's actually a great idea because,
I mean, it's food and shelter. If we can
yeah,
do food and shelter, then from there it's like, yeah, maybe we can't, um, whatever. But it's like I think most people will then say like, we're trying to get rid of this. These two are covered, and then when the economy opens back up, Whole Foods, sends an invoice to the government, which is us, to pay taxes over 10 years for those
yeah,
things.
it's an
And
interesting
and
thought.
so that is the way where it's like, but to say like giving money to Harvard, the Lakers, Roots Chris, and all these guys, and somehow expecting like then the rest of us will get taken care of, like there's too many things falling through the cracks. So
It is a
with
true
this,
like trickle down type of economics that just it's not working.
yeah, and the government will lose the people if the people feel like, look, um, okay, I will follow this system that is inputted because it's gonna it's gonna like run in a certain order that makes sense to me. I stop at this red light for 30 seconds, these ones go, and then that goes red and I go. I feel like there's a system, it's fair, I will oblige. if this light is not turning green for me at all at any point, I'm running that red.
Right.
I'm not following the system anymore. The people behind me are not following the system anymore. It's the country will lose if the government does not function properly. The people will say, I'm not listening to you. I'm not paying taxes anymore. I'm not doing this. If enough people say that, then it's done. Right? And no country is immune from that. No country's ever been immune from that.
Well, and like the most restless people right now are the Trump voters, right?
Right.
On the surface, at least. I think everyone's actually restless. I think
100%.
The people that are acting the most emotionally now
with the protests
are the Trump voters, and I'll give a little love to the voters in downtown LA. So the LA people that were protesting went down there. Every single protester was in their car. I maybe saw 3 protesters outside of their car. And then there was like an anti-protest group, and that was actually the only group that was outside of their car because they were blocking the road. But that group was like maybe, I don't know, 12 people or something like that. So there was like 12 people they were blocking, and they were doing the whole 6 feet distance thing. But like what I would have saw, probably there was thousands of protesters. Everybody was in their car. So downtown LA, I'd be like, yo, you guys actually handled the protest like appropriately without like this ridiculous level of emotion. But then like Michigan, like Huntington Beach, these protesters which is so funny. They're always the group saying like, act with your brain and don't be so emotional. Like they look at Colin Kaepernick and they're like, why do you have to protest in this way? And then these guys they totally shoot their own foot with the gun that they're carrying, because one, you don't need to bring your freaking AR-14 or 15 out. It totally takes the point away from what the protest is all about in the first place, which is, I thought we're just trying to make sure that you can get your job and you bring your freaking gun with you, so now you make it about Second Amendment rights, and then somebody always brings a darn Confederate flag. They should beat the shit out of that person. Because the media is just waiting for a few idiots with crazy looking guns, and then one stupid flag. And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter how many people came out and how right they were. You fucked it up. You look like losers out there.
I think to the best news source that everyone should follow outside of purple politics is The Daily. The Daily does an unbelievable job. The other day they had this guy on from Michigan who's actually he does pest control business. He's like kind of like center, maybe center right, pest control, and he just did a good job. He went on there, kind of explained like how he feels, and it explained a lot about who are the actual protesters, right? The ones that is not the sound bites, the ones that are not, like you said,
the 99% of that protester. Yeah.
Exactly. And the Daily, which is owned by the New, it functions independently from what I've seen. Does a really good job of just interviewing that person and actually getting, and to be honest, that interview on the Daily helped me understand a lot of what's not only going on the right, but some of that sentiment that I'm feeling, since I've been back in Minnesota and seeing, what people are going through, like the top restaurants are closing down, like household names, places that have been open for, that even opened in the last recession. It's just crazy. So, there is, people are worried about how they're going to handle their bills, and especially some of these essential bills. Moms in Florida, business owners in in Michigan that have, 50 employees, and he's like, and on top of that, he's like, with their families, we probably support 150 to 200 people. And he's like, I think about this when I go to bed. and what can we do? And so the PTSD and the stress and the anxiety caused by the economic shutdown is real, and we shouldn't brush it under the table and just say stay at home. We have to acknowledge that the government has failed to take care of these people, and if they cannot find a way, like a panther that's locked in the corner, it's going to try to claw its way out.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. People are going to claw their way out if they feel like they have no other option.
Right.
So.
And that kind of goes on to our next topic of this reopening, which I think we've touched on a lot. But what numbers were you specifically talking about with that you thought kind
of there's a few. I mean, there's a few different universities. Obviously, there's like the federal one. So last week, it was 2 weeks ago, I saw that there's a federal report that we're going to reach 66,000 deaths in August. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
Who's okay with even reporting this? This is like the biggest BS. My dad is like, they already have 66,000 bodies. They're just like
an additional 66,000, or are they just saying that would be that's the peak?
Yeah,
which we've already surpassed.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, I'm like, are we both looking at the same graph? Like, are you guys looking at a different graph? Like, was there something you guys like learned that the rest of us don't know? Because I'm like, it's like you're going 60 miles per hour at this wall, and then you're like, yeah, like we're gonna slow down. I'm like, but what? No, it's.
And these are like this is like an institution, like a.
This is the White House, and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
which sadly we have to look at differently than like, we don't look at the White House as like a university study anymore, which is truly and sadly pathetic. Yeah. Right? Where like there's just so much.
Yeah, so the vote is the White House saying that it's going to be 80,000 by August, and I'm like, no, that's too low. I mean, we're gonna be at maybe 80,000 by the end of May.
Yeah.
Because it's if it's going up the same trajectory, at best maybe the second week of June will hit it. Like, I mean, best case scenario. I mean, based on where we're going right now.
I think we lose. I think the number ends at like 250,000.
Yeah, so there's a new model that's saying it's going to be anywhere between 250 and 350. Honestly, I've seen so many models at this point that maybe one of them, why not? I mean, let's just play the lotto at this point and just say, hey, it's going to be between 200 and 400,000, and whatever number hits in there, at least, it's a guesstimate.
But how are these people like? And I say 250, right? And that's throwing just a dart at a wall. Like, I know nothing. I haven't read enough. But I've looked at the numbers and I go, okay, there's approximately 70,000 people that have died. I know that we've been inside a lot. But I do know that we didn't get as much of the head start as we should have. But I do believe that we're going to get outside. And we're going to probably, once we're outside, we're going to stay outside. A few cities are going to come back in. LA is going to come back in. New York's going to come back in. Chicago's going to come back in. Miami, like a few of these large cities are going to go back in probably around like the end of September or something like that for a while. But our numbers are going to skyrocket next fall.
Okay, so there is a few factors we're starting to figure out. So, for example, LA County has what, 10 million people? The whole Minnesota has 5 million people. When you look at the percentage of death, and Minnesota has done a great job. If you look at the percentage of death for LA County relative to its population, it's 0.00000.
Which would probably be most attributed to how quickly LA reacted, right?
So that's what I would have thought. But New York closed a week later, and not even a week later, maybe a few days later. And they are 10 times, at least 10 times, 20 times, maybe at this point.
Yeah, and I attribute that to lifestyle. Like,
So yeah, I think that like if you look at the cities that are hit the hardest, they have public transportation, and public transportation is used quite a bit. So if you look at New York has subways, um, you know, and obviously Chicago has all the lines. Um, so it's not just population, and population is big, but it's the proximity effect at all times too.
yeah,
You
it's
know
the
this.
lifestyle. It's like, how do you travel? How do you get to work?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
how many people do you pass when you're going to work? Like, again, like people just forget how big LA is. And when you
Right.
finally live out here for a while, you go, holy shit, like it's 15 miles to this, it's 30 miles to that. You're always in your own singular car. Um,
Mm.
but in New York, you pass 50,000 people on the way to the grocery store.
Right. I mean now the more that they learn about this, they're saying like, the coronavirus might attack you know, your brain. It might attack your heart. I mean, there's people who are a doctor. So there's a doctor in New York that committed suicide, and then I was listening on a podcast when they were interviewing a second doctor, and he's like, "Look, I have to mentally prepare myself as if I'm going to a war zone." And because at first I was like, why did she commit suicide? I get it, maybe she's under a lot of stress. And so he said, usually I get X amount of cardiac arrests per day, and then now it's like I'm getting so many cardiac arrests that I'm going in and I can't save them. We call the time. I talk to their parent. I mean, I talk to their family members. Tell them we couldn't do anything. Then what he does, then he has to hit this button to show that he's available. And then as soon as he hits available, they're like, "There's another one on deck. There's another one on deck. There's another one on deck." And he's like, at some point, I hit the button, and we found out the next person was suicide. And he's like, for the first time in my life, I'm going to be honest with you, I felt relief from a suicide. He's like, I never thought I would ever say that. But because he's like, now here's one person that we can't catch it from. Here's one person that it wasn't like, we couldn't save or had to be in a position of saving. Um, and so the gravity of the situation is like, this is this is causing a wreck for our hospitals. And I wish that there was a way for people to, if you're saying, look, I believe coronavirus is real, I believe it's wrecking our country, and yet I'm still stuck economically and I need the government to do something, I need to figure out something, and you can believe in both, I think that is the smart thing.
Yeah.
Um, I wish there was a way to show people who don't take it seriously these scenes that are happening within the hospital that's causing, a doctor to commit suicide.
Right. What is tough is like, I wish that we could all remain calm while we just do our thing. Because I also think that like we are like this stressed out person watching a game that's like adding additional energy to something that we're not adding any value, but we're just adding negative energy. So it makes everything so difficult. Like these doctors are, walking through the grocery store and they feel fucking stressed. And then they go home and I'm sure it's stressful. And then they go on TV and it's freaking stressful. It's like, fuck. Like they are just built in this, like, they're sitting around it all the time. And it's like, if we're the type of people that don't have anything to do, that economically are okay, chill. You know, the best you can do is chill the fuck out. Like, be a little nicer to people. Like, give everybody a darn break. Like, that's how you could help, is like, stop being an asshole. Like, there's actually people struggling. If you're not struggling, you need to chill the fuck out. And you really need to help out just by be the damn class clown if you need to be. Like, do whatever, but like, don't sit around and criticize these doctors and then don't add additional energy that's unneeded. You know?
Right. Yeah. It's already tough. It's already difficult enough without all of that.
Right. Well, one thing my sister told me about the reopening is in Texas, right? And she is a mom and she's got some kids, all younger than 5 years old. And like they're like a classic Texan, right? Like they're Republicans. They just want to like they're freewheeling and they love it, right? They're in the oil and natural gas business, but they when they got like their stay-at-home orders are now done or they're starting to reopen. They're kind of doing like a trickle reopen. I think like 25% of the restaurant is available as far as the volume of it. She's still like, well, I'm still not going outside and being a part of the opening. But she's like, it gives me relief to know that we're starting to reopen. She's like, there's something about like the bubbling of the teapot or whatever. It just feels like they've kind of broken the seal a little bit, and it's taking some of the mental pressure off to feel like, okay, something is happening. You know, she's like, I'm not gonna put a bunch of pressure on the scenario by like going out and freewheeling it all over the city. They you know, they did go to like their favorite local taco stand, and they did go to like some donut spot that they wanted. They didn't sit inside, but they're like, we went and got takeout from our spots that now reopen. And I think there's a lot of people actually out there like that, where like there's going to be a deeper level of appreciation. I don't think that necessarily when it means like it reopens that everybody's just going to go live. It's going to still be a trickle out, regardless of your political belief, regardless of how resilient you think you are. I think we're still all going to tiptoe out the door a little bit.
Yeah, and that's good. You know, I think proceeding with caution, even in enthusiasm, is important. It's interesting to see the rift between the governor. So, the governor of Texas wants the state to open back up. The mayor of Dallas does not.
Right.
The governor of Nevada does not want, you know, things to open up, whereas in the mayor of, you know, Las Vegas wants things to open back up.
She is a wild child.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say she's a complete whack job. She's been at the penny slots for way too long.
Huh?
She looks like one of those ladies that's been at the penny slots for way too long.
Yeah, and because Anderson Cooper asked her, he's like, so okay, so are you gonna be like inside the casinos, like playing the slots? Like, are you gonna show that like, hey, you think it's safe? And she's like, I'm not gonna be there. I got work to do. It's just like, you know, it's like there's this element where, obviously, you know, if you're reopening the city, what other work do you have to do other than being the symbol that shows that and she's like, you know what? We'll be the guinea pig city. We'll test it for everybody else.
We'll be the placebo.
Huh?
She said we'll be the placebo. Even.
Yeah, like
you know, like one person takes the sugar pill and like they don't have the drug that helps you, and then you just kind of learn. And like,
and I was like, did you just
Anderson Cooper's like, you know, the placebo, it doesn't really work out for those people.
Yeah. And then it's just like, also, when you're the placebo, you don't know that you're the placebo. You know what I mean? It's like it's a double blind, and it's
Vegas is one of those spots. Once it opens up, it's gonna go bangarang.
I mean, you know, if we're gonna be honest, I think a lot of people, whether or not like they want to say it, this country is getting pushed around, meaning people's mental PTSD and caused by the fact that they don't know what their next meal is going to be. Like, I think a lot of people are too proud to say like, hey man, like I don't know when I'm going to get my next paycheck. I don't know XYZ. Those things are going to push people over the top, and they're at the point of saying, look, I might die, I may not die. Other people may die, they may not die, but like, we gotta take the gamble at this point. That's the energy that I feel from some of the protesters.
Even people that I know that are adamantly against hate the protesters. Everyone's starting to ease up on their own life a little bit. Like, everybody who was like, yo, we have to totally stay inside, are starting to like, but I do this. Like, everyone's starting to have their like
exceptions, like
They're kind of exceptions. Like, what's that like when you have like that dessert at the end of the night, or like you watch your TV show that like your dirty little secret. Like everyone's
oh,
forming
like
their guilty
yeah, I know.
pleasure. Everyone's
Yeah,
kind of
like
has their like little guilty pleasure, which is like they know somebody who has some sort of house that they could kind of go to. Like
yeah,
I just see that starting to like those floodgates are opening a little bit.
yeah. I'm starting to see asterisks everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't go outside, but like I do go sit at the park.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
No, there's. I mean, when we look at it from a 10,000 foot level, how do you reopen a country, right? And this is a conversation I think I saw on Freakonomics. How do you reopen a country where it's like there's no playbook, there's no expert on how to reopen a country?
I think you do a nationwide Star Spangled Banner, and you fucking play ball. You like, if Trump wanted to reopen, he goes 8 a.m. like pledges allegiance. We hit the Star Spangled Banner, and he has a flyover of every single major city in America, and he goes,
It's like open
let her fucking rip, and he's just like, let's fucking go. And everyone's like, oh shit, we out here. Like,
I mean, he should at least play like Ray Charles, like America. America.
yeah, I think you have to have, if I were like a total asshole like Republican, like saying we should open, which I am just not right now, that doesn't mean that I won't get there. I might get this might break me. I would do a fit, like each major city in each state would get a flyover, and we would, I mean, dude, I would put the Star Spangled Banner out. It would sound like a damn call to prayer, bro.
Yeah, and I would be like, okay, this is great and all, but like, where's my stimulus check? Like,
Yeah.
like drop some do something. It's like this is when the rules go out the window, and this is when it turns into monopoly.
It's getting weird.
It's like it's a game. It's like you can't just be like, well, we don't have free money to give out. It's like, yes, we do have free money to give out.
No, I mean, the Federal Reserve can actually print money.
Yeah, and it's like, this is, if there was a situation where you should just print money,
Literally free money.
yeah,
I
this
think we
would
let it
be the
fly.
time.
I think
Yeah.
we gotta go rogue. I think America's gotta go open wheel racing. I do think we have to stay at home a little longer than we all wish. And then I do think
But
we
what is it?
also have to go back inside at some point too, which is gonna suck.
Is LA May 20th?
Oh, dude, you're May 18th. LA, July 8th is my current guess. Because that's the Monday after July 4th weekend. They're not gonna let July 4th weekend happen.
Oh, I mean, I don't think you think people are going crazy now. Try to hold them back for July 4th. Then you will literally have people get riots will start
Dude,
in the streets.
I mean, it is a renewal of Independence Day, bro. This might be one of the greatest July 4ths of all time. Whether you are liberal or Republican or conservative or Democrat, like, this might be one of the greatest July 4ths of all time. It might send us all to our early grave, but the people will be like, yo, America, actually, that got crazy.
That got wild. Yeah. I think, Spanish flu, we had, 2 to 3 million people die in the United States.
For what?
And I think it was about 2 to 3 million that died for the Spanish flu in the United States. So,
Luckily,
I think
I don't think we hit those numbers, but I think we get a 250,000.
yeah.
So what do you think about Elon?
I mean, the sad thing about Elon is like, I used to think Elon was a genius, and I still do. But going back to my earlier point, just because you're great at one thing doesn't mean that it translates over into other things. Like, how's the guy who made Tesla and created SpaceX and PayPal doesn't actually understand fascism and doesn't like and tyranny? Like, first of all, it's a slap in the face for people who've actually had to deal, deal with concentration camps and deal with, actual tortures in history. You can go outside. You can go to a different state. You can get on a plane. You can go to the grocery store.
The country's a little more open than people actually think.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, there's a lot of closed stuff, but like,
yeah, these are like suggestions, but like you can go over to somebody's house if you wanted to, and they agreed to it too.
yeah.
So to call this like all these different things, it's like I think it's a distraction from the fact that he sent devices that didn't actually work. I think he didn't know what he was sending. And
I mean, he must have been a little embarrassed by that. And he seems a little Trumpy to me.
I know
He gets like on these little like Trump Twitter rants, and it goes off the rails.
Yo, I think who's he with? What's her name?
Oh, Grimes. Ugh. I don't know, man.
And so there's just,
Her music's just so dark. It's just like she's got this scary music. It's like demonic. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things where, um, I know they have a kid. They have a kid. They're having a kid come into this world at some point here. Um, it is interesting to see as he's getting older and with these flare ups are having more and more. It's as if like, are you taking drugs to get on these like conference calls?
I think
Or are
he's.
you
I
taking?
think he's actually taking too many sleep aids, and then on Joe Rogan, he came off a little bit autistic, and not in a bad way. Like I think, and that's a weird thing to say, but like I think it shows that like his brain's on a spectrum that's completely different than most people. But it also gets a little bit weird when he tries to accommodate to other social norms, which is like
Yeah.
when he starts to like drink and when he starts to smoke pot, like it just gets weird. It's like it gets super awkward because he just doesn't have like really good social awareness.
Yeah, and I wonder like, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, just because he's good at putting together, he reminds me of an engineer that we once had, for Juice Bar. It's like the kid was smart, um, but in a social situation, it
They're
was
just
just like,
goofballs.
yeah, it's just awkward. Like I can imagine, you know, smoking weed with him. It would be weird.
Right.
Like it'd be like, what? What are you doing?
There's just something about that brain every once in a while that like it just gets on a path where it's like it just shouldn't interact with different drugs. And he seems like that weird kid at a party that he just wants to act so cool and smoke the weed with you, and it's like, don't, dude. Don't. You're not supposed to.
As I'm getting older, I realize who else is really weird is doctors, man. Like doctors are like my friends that have become doctors. And now that I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, like you kind of have to be a little weird to be a doctor. You can't just be normal.
An extra 12 years of school after college if you're going to specialize, like, that's weird.
Radiologist?
Why?
I said, what?
Yeah, why you would have what the interest, how you would be that interested is bizarre to me. Because you can still like be interested and be like you could build a business that like needs the knowledge that a doctor has, but you wouldn't have to go through the school. You could just like kind of sit around on YouTube if you if you were that type of brain. I don't have that type of brain.
Right. I mean, we all like, yeah. It's like you look at that and you go, they're just weird, and but yeah.
But so he lost $4.7 billion for himself because he said that Tesla was overvalued, which I don't know. It might be. It definitely was flying high. There's a few of these stocks that are just like, I think how I always try to associate it is, I think the stock market is trying to come up for air and take one more deep breath before it like goes deep,
And
deep.
blows.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a deep dive with this market, and not to say that it kills us. I still don't believe that we're going to go in like a Great Depression, but like I do believe that it's going to be way crazier than our first recession, our recession in 2008, our first recession in our life that we remember.
Yeah.
It's going to be a deep dive. But Elon's a goofball, man. I'm excited to continue to track him as this goes on. His Twitter feed is a must follow right now. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely a wild card. Yeah, like you said, very Trumpy-ish, and we'll see where this goes.
So next on the docket is Biden. Just a kind of a new thing to also track because it's far from resolved at this moment. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts is I see hypocrisy a lot. So, I'm going to start off on the easy side. The Republicans. Trump has over 28 allegations. Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I can keep going. Like the Republicans have no ability to point any moral fingers because the Republicans have lost that a long time ago and
Right.
a million times over with Trump. So that's the easy one. The other part is the Democrats. For the Democrats, it's ironic to me and also hypocritical that when it is a Brett Kavanaugh or it is anybody else, we are quick to be like, oh my God, Republicans, you guys are, yada, yada, yada. Like such a, like fucking elitist, like on our horses.
Well, and everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs, finish him! Finish him! Like, it's over.
Yeah. Believe her.
Right.
And now that it's Biden, it's like, well, hey, she might be doing this because she wants him to lose against Trump. She might be doing this because of XYZ. It's like, well, she might be or she may not be. We don't know. And when I watch MSNBC, I see all these people going up there defending Biden. And then MSNBC, I'm like, MSNBC, it's clear. You are Fox News. Like, you are you're adding the right people on the show. You're spoon feeding the situation. And so I'm seeing that, from the Democrats too. And it's like, shame on the Democrats because we had my favorite candidate, Bernie Sanders, who was perfect from a liberal perspective, who had, when I say perfect, I mean not his ideas, but the fact that like he doesn't take money from big donors. He has never assaulted anybody and would never assault. Like he's just has a pristine record. Like he's the type of person that you want to be like, this is my grandpa. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, you don't know. Like I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but it's, I know I would feel safer with a Bernie Sanders. So we had that. The choice was clear. The debates happened. And the Democrats picked Biden. If Biden goes down for this, we made this bed. Not the Republicans, not anybody else. So the Democrats can't point the finger to anybody else. The Republicans, I don't want to hear it from the Republicans.
Right.
But I also don't want to hear from the Democrats saying that, like, well, he's going to lose to Trump. Well, you pieces of, why did we pick Biden? The guy who has dementia and, has no new ideas and has nothing to offer other than, like, wanting a seat at the presidency because he feels like it's his turn.
Yeah.
Like, that's the guy we picked?
Well, the biggest problem I think that the Democrats are dealing with, and it's kind of happened twice now in my opinion, is they tee someone up as the inevitable candidate. And so
Right.
it's like Hillary Clinton was teed up. And Biden was like, he wasn't teed up like Hillary was teed up. But like, they kind of were like scrambling around and they just slowly just put him on it, right? They're like, shoot.
This time around, they had to kind of put on face that they weren't teeing him up. And so it's not just the DNC, it's MSNBC, it's CNN. These people, these corporations have media people. You know, when these media people pay their bills. These companies pay their bills. The people that pay the bills for MSNBC to be on air, to put commercials, let's say Pfizer, for example, puts on a commercial on MSNBC. They make a lot of money in between breaks from Pfizer.
Mm-hmm.
Pfizer, if they have to pick between Bernie Sanders and Biden, they're picking Biden. So when these news optics, as much as they try to act fair, they were never fair to Bernie Sanders. And everybody could see that. You could be a Republican. You could completely disagree with Bernie Sanders. And you could say, yeah, the media really did side with Biden more than it did with Bernie.
Right.
And, and so like the continuation, and also the Democrats that voted for Biden. So if Biden loses, as I've said this before, it's completely the Democrats' fault for putting up Biden against Trump. You thought that horse could beat this horse, and it didn't. And there's a good chance it may not, even though Trump is fumbling everything. I will vote for Biden against Trump because I think Trump is the bigger evil. If Biden loses to Trump, I won't be surprised, and I actually won't even be mad, because me being mad or sad about the situation happened when Bernie Sanders, who will never get to be president again, lost to Hillary, then Biden. That is, to me, the real tragedy, was not having somebody who could put in real change. So
Right.
There's a lot of hypocrisy on both sides. And the one thing that I find always perplexing is that I wish Tara Reid, I don't deny that what happened to her happened to her. I don't know the situation. It is not my place to say. I wish that this situation would have been brought up in the middle of the race, not when
The Bernie race.
I mean, even when there's 8 candidates up there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, bring this up 2 years ago.
Well, one of the interesting things that came with hers is obviously Fox News is like ready and willing to air her. I don't know if they did this weekend yet, but that was one of the things that was potentially coming up. Her claim is that there's a reporter at CBS that she wants to get interviewed by, and that has yet to happen. So she's claiming that she doesn't want to come out on Fox News because it will be politicized, obviously, and it seems so apparent that like Fox News would love to have her because then they can just try to bully this situation through. And if that's the situation in reality, where like there's news organizations that she would rather go on that are denying her coverage, I go, whoa, that's crazy. So I think time will still tell if like those realities are true. But those are the
crazy
conversations.
for a news source right now to deny her.
I know, that's what it's like. If you did like ever, if there's emails that come out that like she's been trying to contact CBS for like the last like 9 months and she was not like listened to, that's crazy.
What the and this is just things that I'm thinking about is like, it's 2020. She can't go on Twitter and explain not only the situation, but she doesn't owe us any explanation. She could file something with the police, with the courts, maybe if the statute of limitations are gone, and if she does want this information to be out, hence why she brought it up. I think all of us would be okay with getting it off Twitter maybe a live video on YouTube. Like there's so many channels like
Right.
today that it would get reshared. You don't need CBS. You don't need Fox. Like I don't know why is it a specific person. Like why is she politicizing it to the point where she's like, this is not an a la carte buffet thing.
That's what's tough
Maybe.
because she's claiming that she doesn't want to get to politicize, and that's the thing. Like, I actually, regardless of like what news was an organization that she wants to let this out on, I I can't tell her to do anything, and I don't want to be the type of person to tell her to do anything. So it's like if she wants CBS, she wants CBS, and I'm like, if that's the way that you want to go live about what happened in your life that was traumatic, then I just think that she should be given that. Like, in, especially, and I think then also as a observer of this situation, I'm like, whatever news source is out there that if she's asked any news source, I want to go live with this, they better grant her that live at this moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, people are like, well, what if she's totally lying? And I'm like, well, dude, we're talking about like the potential president of the United States. I say the same thing about the Trump stuff. Like, if any level of suppression, which has happened through different NDAs and buyouts, which are absolute bullshit, like we should be able to like know everything before we vote for somebody. Like, I want to be able to, like, Trump should release his tax information. You know, like we as voters should, like, when you want to run for president, like, we should pretty much be able to strip search you because it's a big decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first thing first, as you said, she should be able to, have her story. Actually want to hear the story.
And if she wants to give it, then like now it's the time. Like,
yeah. And two, like I said, my only wish is somebody who would rather have, honestly, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and of course Bernie Sanders, more than even a Biden. I just wish, I'm like, Tara, like you've known him since what, the 90s, and why didn't you say something 2 months ago? And I'm saying this from my perspective, not like I empathize with anybody who's gone through any level of sexual harassment, but to add on to it, it's like we had a choice between other candidates, and if you are talking about this now after he is, like, the timing of it bothers me, and I don't know why it bothers me, but it does.
well, that's the thing. So if she decided this is the timing, and she's also saying I don't want to be politicized over this, I go, unfortunately, your timing is really difficult to talk about you not wanting this to be politicized. You have to realize this is politicized.
Right.
Now, if she wanted to talk about it, if she's been trying to talk about it for like the last year, and then goes, but I've been getting suppressed, then I go, holy shit, this is crazy that the news covered this up.
And then we should also know who's suppressing her, because those people should go to jail too.
Right.
For anybody that said, hold on to this until he becomes president, so that like maybe he will give us money, maybe you'll get a better book deal out of this, maybe, like, look, again, nothing is, to me, is mutually exclusive. Like, I have no reason not to believe her. Let's say in this situation she was actually sexually harassed, she was raped, whatever. All of that stuff could have happened, and then yet at the same time, when she wanted to come public with it, somebody within her camp or those lawyers said, let's wait for the right moment to bring this up. That is what the shade, because I'm like, the timing of when this is coming out, even though Biden has been a public representative and one tragic accident happening to President Obama from becoming president, why not bring this up? And then obviously Obama vetted President, VP Biden at the time, and this was not in his portfolio. I'm assuming if it was, Obama wouldn't have picked him. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out, I'm like, how's this thing been kept under wraps for so long? With the who's the Hollywood guy that went to jail?
Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein. There was people around him that helped him keep things under wrap, and I actually think those people as well should face some sort of, not saying they go to jail, whatever. I mean,
No, they should go to jail. Like, how is that any different than smuggling drugs? Like, he's the kingpin, and
Right.
everybody in that organization, like, if he goes in for 20 years, they should go in for 7 or whatever. Like, it just kind of goes down the list.
Yeah. So is it this situation where like Tara Reid has like never told anybody else, like no other
Well,
situation?
that she did tell other people. So I think she has like 5 other people that she's told. Her mom being one of them, and then some other person that she worked with at the time. Because there's even kind of a cryptic call-in that her mom gave to Larry King back in 1993. Was that when it was? It was like 1993 or something like that, where her mom like called in and said that something had happened to her daughter. So there was like a half kind of, there was kind of an interesting effort that happened publicly on a Larry King show, and then it kind of went dormant for a while. But there's enough people that have said, okay, she did tell me this around that time, where she's not like totally in the dark on it.
Right.
And so that's why there is more levels of kind of credibility. Even if she didn't tell anybody, I think there's still levels of credibility
Yeah.
that are undeniable.
Yeah. I mean, from the attack side, there's no discrediting that. I mean, most times when a woman says she's been sexually assaulted or raped, like 99.99% of the time, from what I've seen, it's like, yes,
Something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that, we've seen situations where one or two, that football player who didn't actually, rape her, and he went to jail.
But
I feel
why
like
would
there's-
you? But like really, most of the time, like why the heck would you lie about this? Because you put yourself under such public scrutiny.
Right.
People
And-
who have been raped have been like, I don't even know if I want to have to deal with the emotional public toll as well. Like they've already gone through a train wreck. Now they have to basically be like re-examined in front of everybody. Like that's almost equally as traumatic as that other experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think that, in this type of situation, she brought it up. Am I let's say we figure out that this is true. Would I be surprised to hear that Biden sexually assaulted her? No, I wouldn't be surprised, because he gives me the creeps.
He's got creepy vibes for sure.
Yeah.
He's got to stop smelling girls' hair, little girls' hair.
Yeah, exactly. And my thing is, like, he gives me the creeps, and we could have had somebody who was not creepy. It's like this information, which I believe it happens to be true. I just wish it came out sooner.
Yeah.
Well,
and
candidates.
my biggest problem with all this is I hate that all these sexual assault crimes, the sexual harassment and rape, always have to be taken on as a public opinion piece. They aren't fucking settled in court. Like, how is our court system so messed up that a person who's been raped doesn't even feel comfortable being able to be like secure, safe, have enough anonymity to resolve these issues? Like, the fact that it always has to take place in the court of public opinion and not real court really is starting to bother me. It's like this whole Me Too movement, a very valid movement, because there's been a lot of guys doing horrible things for a long time, but like it's like most of these guys are not even going to jail. It's just us like deciding like, okay, now LJ Stead thinks he's an asshole. What does that really do? It doesn't like
Right.
give her justice that I think he's an asshole now.
Right.
It just almost like it's sad because like she still has the pain of the situation. He's still free, and now we
Yeah.
all know that happened. Like it's just a double whammy for the girl, and the guy's kind of still walking around.
Right. I mean, it's almost like our choice of two presidents are both people who have been, you know, both have been accused and of sexual harassment. Like, it's like the best we can do. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand it. Yes, I know Trump 28 times. I know Biden at this point is one. But it's still why. Like, we can have other options. And I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm like, am I in an alternate universe? You know, it's just like none of this makes sense to me anymore. Like Biden versus Trump, coronavirus. Harvard is getting 8 million. The Lakers are getting money, but businesses that are staples to the community are shutting down. It's like, just give me some good news.
Right.
Like I'm searching out of my way to find good news. There's like, it's hard. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's brutal out there.
And good news meaning like I feel very privileged for everything I have, and I feel very grateful. But I see my dad watching the news literally way too much, and I'm just like, news, like share something else that's good news. Like sprinkle in one or two nice things in there.
Yeah.
Never happens.
I'm going back to Parks and Rec. I've been watching some Parks and Rec and some Curb Your Enthusiasm lately.
That's good. That's good.
But dude, this is a good first episode for us here in our new format.
Yeah, I like it. I'm excited to see it. I think you have a better view of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hopefully it went all right. We'll get this out here shortly, and love it.
I mean, yeah, and let the people know that you got the Big E shirt, just so you can go see. I asked LJ, I was like, "Yo, nice shirt." He's like, "I got it today," and he essentially says it's because he has to go see Elof's family. I'm like, the day that's gonna be funny. Like if I, down the road date somebody and I go over to their house, I'll think about that shirt, maybe grab something equivalent of it and just see how they respond. It's just kind of a funny shirt to me, but it's not a button up, it's not a polo. It's like I bought a shirt with like Biggie 4 times on it.
Well, we were hanging out. We were hanging out with just siblings.
Yeah. Okay. That's why. Okay.
Yeah. So no parents. It was just siblings. That's
okay.
What was
so
going
if you're
on.
gonna go see your mom,
No. I would class it up a bit. Yeah. But I bought this at Target, so always got a shout out to Target. Target gets boxed in with the idea that they have any similarity to Walmart way too much out here in the West Coast. I hate it. Target, superior brand. Pretty nice clothes in there. You can find some real fashion in Target.
Yeah,
nice affordable stuff.
I shop so much at Target.
Goodfellow is a sick brand.
Goodfellow is like probably.
Is that a Goodfellow shirt on right now? That looks like a Goodfellow.
No, this is a shout out to Steve Eigenman. This is his shirt. It's made out of hemp.
Oh, nice.
It's durable. It's nice. It's breathable.
Does it feel good?
Trifecta. Huh?
It feels good?
Oh, it feels great, and it holds really well, and it's like soft but sturdy. It's hard to explain. We gotta get it. And then he's like, hey, because I told him when he used to live with us that I liked long sleeve shirts with pocket tees, and now his brand is long sleeve shirts, pocket tees. I don't know if it was an influence or coincidence, but it's nice.
All right, as long as that influence can get you some more pocket tees.
yeah, exactly. All right.
Nice, man. Over and out. Godspeed. Have a good day tomorrow.
We'll talk soon.
All right, see ya.
Yep.